And the president, immediately upon taking office, designated TDA as a foreign terrorist organization. And under this act, it is within the president's authority to deport these terrorists. And anybody trying to defend these terrorists who have now been sent off of American soil should talk to the families of the individuals who these heinous monsters have killed and have raped.
Actually, in my district, and we saw a major raid that was coordinated by several different federal law enforcement agencies take almost 50 of these members into custody and then immediately turn around and deport them, because getting these folks out of our community is the best and the fastest way to be able to protect public safety and make sure that we actually have safe places for our families. And
one activist said this.
What I've seen is these pro-terror protests that are not grassroots efforts. These are very well organized, very well funded. They have the same masks. They have the same uniforms. They have the same camping equipment, the same terror promoting materials like this manual throughout the country.
So she would be across from all of these people who hate her and want to hurt her. Can you even imagine speaking up at this point? What she and others do.
Real power in this nation is the American people. Real power is here, right here in Lowell, Massachusetts. Real power are the people who continue to pay attention, the people who continue to reach out, the people who continue to make their voices heard. That's why so much of this fight is trying to get people just to give up.
And just this week, you saw that Apple now is investing $500 billion in U.S. jobs, and that's creating 20,000 new jobs in America. What do you think about how the effect that Trump coming in is having on these businesses and their investments?
This agency is on its way to breaking down, and you know who's going to break it? It'll be Elon Musk. It'll be the guy with the wrecking ball.
I mean, the way it's important in entitlement spending, which is most of the federal spending is entitlements. So that's like the big one to eliminate.
That if someone is in need, if someone is disabled, if someone has had an illness that has changed their lives, we wrap our hands around them, not just as a neighborhood, but as a nation. That is why Medicaid is worth saving. That is why Medicaid is worth standing up for.
This important but very simple piece of legislation enables veterans who qualify for vocational flight training through the Veteran Readiness and Employment Program the ability to complete flight training through a flight school. This will increase flexibility for veterans seeking vocational flight training outside of a college degree program while simultaneously working to address the U.S. airline pilot shortage.
And so with that, I'd like to present this check, and I want to thank everybody who worked so diligently, especially the staff and all of the commissioners and the mayor who really worked with us to make sure that we're meeting the housing needs of this city.
So what I like to do first is refill the newspapers, take out the old with the new. Then I'll add some new printing paper that's fresh. After that, I will put binders together per the staff's request. And then throughout the day, just answering constituent phone calls and making sure I log in their information for the Congresswoman.
Democratic Congresswoman Brittany Peterson gave birth in January and was back in the Capitol just 4 weeks later, bringing her newborn son to the House floor to vote against the GOP's budget plan.
I rise today with my newborn Sam, who's just 4 weeks old. Unfortunately, I wasn't given the opportunity to vote remotely after giving birth, but I wasn't going to let that stop me from being here to represent my constituents.
The first to report that President Trump has paused $175 million in federal funding from the University of Pennsylvania over its controversial policies. A senior administration official telling Fox Business that this is just a taste of what could be coming down the pipe for Penn, a proactive punishment from the president to pull back discretionary spending going to the school from DOD and HHS.
And one of her beliefs is that it is unfair to allow transgender women to play women's sports. In other words, Ms. Libby, I don't speak for her, but I've read her interviews. She believes it's unfair, fundamentally unfair, that it will destroy women's sports if transgender women, biological males who identify as transgender women, are allowed to play women's sports. And she has said so.
Let's just take one sector, agriculture. You know, Illinois is the 5th largest exporter of agricultural crops anywhere in the country. And unfortunately, not only are these farmers going to be subject to retaliatory tariffs by our trading partners, such as Canada, they are also going to be paying more for some of their inputs, their vital inputs that they import from places like Canada. So fertilizer, for instance, comes from Canada, and now we're going to slap a tariff on those fertilizers.
And the point we got last night was they can't wait till 2026. They need help now. And so I think the focus needs to be on what we do now. For example, I've got a Medicaid roundtable we're going to do later today that tries to draw attention to that, because we're going to have these individual votes coming up. And I think it's important for us to see if we can have an impact on those.
But I'll tell you what, I will not agree to dismantling critical federal programs to pay for tax cuts for the wealthiest Americans. It is not going to trickle down to hardworking Nevadans, I can promise you. We know it, and Nevadans know it. That's why it is so critical that we keep working together at the local, state, and federal level to ensure we're getting Nevadans the resources that they need.
I'm here in my district office where I just met with members of SEIU 2015 that represents long-term healthcare workers. Many of these are home care workers. They provide care to senior citizens and people with disabilities, all of it which is funded by Medicaid. If there are cuts to Medicaid, what will happen to the senior citizens and people with disabilities that need this care 24 hours, 7 days a week? They are doing the work that we need people to do, and that's why I'm glad to join them in the fight to stop Medicaid cuts today on a Medicaid Day of Action.